All right, I am here for section 4.2, the recording. Sorry for my squeaky chair there. You had us do problems number 36, 38, 59, and 89. So this section wasn't too bad once I kind of got the hang of it, and, practice makes perfect. So we're just going to jump right in. So problem number 36 is part of this top group of problems here, which states to graph and write interval notation for each compound inequality. So we were given x is less than or equal to -5, or x is greater than 2. So that's what I start off with my equation up here. So kind of once again, I just kind of done everything already, but I'm just going to go one by one with this. So what this problem right here tells us is that this is a union problem because it is or. It is not a conjunction, it is a disjunction. So, since everything's already kind of solved for us for x, we don't have to do any algebraic equations or anything like that, so we just kind of graph it here. So for my first graph here, since x is less than or equal to -5, we're going to put a bracket where -5 is and shade to the left infinity. So the for interval notation, it would be the bracket sign stating that it is less than or equal to sign there, and that would be negative infinity. So any number from the negative infinity universe all the way to number -5. Let's try that again. Is gonna be part of that problem. So then moving on to the second one here. Pretty simple and straightforward again, and just make sure I did it right. Yes, +2. So simple line graph, which is horribly drawn here. I've got -2, 0, and 2. So with this one, it's not going to be a bracket. It's just going to be a parenthesis, which just states it is less than 2. So then it will go to the left, or not to the left, but we make a parenthesis there, and it goes to the right. And our interval notation would be all in parentheses, would be 2 and positive infinity. So any number for positive infinity, as long as it's less than 2, would work. So kind of just, conserve space here on my paper. I did write both graphs over here, as I'll kind of just visually point out. If we kind of imagine this being moved over to here, at any point in the line graph, they do not meet. So this is a disjunction, as I mentioned. So for interval notation, the final form would be, as I mentioned before, the bracket, negative infinity to -5, parenthesis, the U symbol, and then parenthesis 2, +0. So that is the answer for 36. 38 is still part of the same problem. So I have x is greater than -7 and x is less than -2. So same thing, this is pretty simple. It's already solved for us, so I don't have to solve for x or anything like that or do any algebra, except just put it here on the line graph and put it in interval notation. Even though the line graph kind of gets annoying, especially with this section, doing them over and over and over. That again, I have realized that sometimes I'll catch myself in a mistake. So it does help. So I've found I'd rather just do a quick line graph and make sure I'm right than, get it wrong. So for the first line graph here, there is no less than or greater than or equal to, so I'm not going to deal with any brackets. It's just parentheses here. Our key term here is and. So this is a conjunction inequality is what we have. So it means we need to eventually put both of our inequalities here on the same graph. So for our left graph here, I'm going to put a parenthesis for -7 because x is greater than anything of -7, and then shade into the right. So our inequality, or our interval notation form is -7, 0, 0, both in parentheses. And for the second equation, it is x is less than -2. So anything less than -2 in the negative universe or negative integer numbers, that goes on and on. It's going to be -0, 0 to -2. So then this bottom graph here is kind of where they both meet. So we have -7 and -2. This is our first first coordinate for the inequality is going to be placed along with our second, both parentheses. So basically that's what the line graph looks like since this is a conjunction inequality. So our final interval notation is going to be -7 to -2, both in parentheses. So, like I said, pretty simple and straightforward with that one. Our next problem is going to be 59. So with this one, it is part of the group that states to solve and graph each solution set. So the problem or the equation that was given to us is -10 is less than or equal to 3x minus 1, which is less than or equal to -5. As I mentioned, and maybe if someone else is having a problem with this, for most of my life, I've always had an issue figuring out which side is which. And I don't know why, but somehow it clicked for me to say when it's less than, the end point here goes to the left. So I kind of just do that and I'm like, okay, wait, no, it's the other way if it's greater than. And honestly, it helped even with doing the line graphs. It's like, okay, wait a second, I need to fill in to the left if it's less than, not right. So thought I'd just point that out. Because as you mentioned in your videos, you've done the shark method, I've heard the alligator method. You know, I guess whatever works for as long as you're doing it right. So, so with this inequality, we are going to solve for x. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides of the equation here to get rid of that -1. So that gives me -10 is less than or equal to 3x, which is less than or equal to 6. So then I need to get x by itself. I'm going to divide by 3 on all sides. And I take that back. Give me just a second here. It just dawned upon me with inequalities like this, even though there are two separate equal signs, I still need to do it to the whole equation. So hopefully I correct myself in that. So that's going to give us a, okay, wow, I had to kind of undo that whole problem. So I take that back. So I added 1 to all sides. So just to kind of backtrack here. So then this gives me 9 is less than or equal to 3x, which is less than or equal to 6. So then divide by 3 since I want to get x by itself. That's going to give me 3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 2. So this is where I've fixed my graph and my interval notation. So for my graph here, I just put a bracket where the 2 is and 3, so it's shaded in. So anything between 2 and 3 will work for this problem. So then my interval notation is going to be brackets, and since it is less than or equal to 2, since number 2 would be the first coordinate we'd run into on the graph, followed by -3, and then closed with the bracket because it is still the equal to on our inequalities. So hopefully I caught that mistake, and hopefully I didn't just mess up the whole problem. So we'll just continue forward. All right, last but not least, I got 89 here. For this part of the problems, it asks for f of x as given. Use interval notation to write the domain of f. So from what I can tell right there means f of x is as is. So I don't need to try to solve anything to plug in for f of x. It is f of x. It's simply just that. So for the problem, it is f of x. It equals the square root of 2x plus 7. So, as with rational expressions or fractions, what we're going to do is we're going to solve for x here, but we're going to add 0 at the end. So I've got 2x plus 7, which is greater than or equal to 0. And then we're going to add 7 to both sides to move the 7 and leave 2x by itself. So then that gives us 2x, which is greater than or equal to -7. We're going to divide that by 2. So then that gives us x is greater than or equals to -7, 2, which is also 3.5 if you divide it, but I'm still going to leave it in fraction form. So doing, like I mentioned before, it is 3.5. So on my number line graph here, I'm going to kind of just put it, you know, a little bit before 4. This is not exactly to scale. That's not my intended goal, but just to kind of give a visual representation. So since this is equal to or it is greater than or equal to, I'm going to put a bracket where the -7, 2 is going to be, and then shade in for the rest for the graph to negative or to positive infinity. So for final interval notation, it's going to be bracket because, as I mentioned before, it's that greater than or equal to is what is that giveaway for that bracket. is -7/2 to positive infinity, and with a parenthesis. So that's all I got for you. Hopefully I didn't mess up 59 too bad. I'm kind of glad I caught that. And I will see you for the next video.